Day everyone. Good day everyone. So today we are going to discuss about assessing the internal environment of the firm. This is your presenter for the topic, Architect Jenny Libot. In this lesson, we are going to grasp the following. Number one, the benefits and limitations of SWOT analysis in conducting an internal analysis of the firm. Second, the primary and support activities of a firm's value chain. The third, how value chain analysis can help managers create value by investigating relationships among activities within the firm and between the firm and its customers and suppliers. Now, the fourth one is the resource-based view of the firm and the different types of tangible and intangible resources, as well as organizational capabilities. The fifth one, the four criteria that a firm's resources must possess to maintain a sustainable advantage and how value created can be appropriated by employees and managers. The sixth one is the usefulness of financial ratio analysis, its inherent limitations, and how to make meaningful comparisons of performance across firms. And of course, the last one is the value of the balanced scorecard. Okay, so here before we proceed to the main point of this study, we will discuss the benefits and limitations of SWOT analysis. So, a SWOT analysis consists of a careful listing of a firm's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. While we believe it is very useful, it should not form the primary basis for evaluating a firm's internal strengths and weaknesses or the opportunities and threats in the environment. So, SWOT has some limitations. Okay, number one, strength. No, strength may not lead to an advantage. So, a firm's strengths and capabilities, no matter how unique or impressive, may not enable it to achieve a competitive advantage in the marketplace. Just like including a harp player in a rock band, di ba, dili sila magkasibo, dili bagay. So, the next one, SWOT's focus is on the external environment. Ang iyang focus sa external environment is too narrow. Narrow la kayo. So, strategies to rely on traditional definitions of their industry and competitive environment often focus their sights too narrowly on current customers, technology, and competitors. They fail to notice important changes on the periphery of their environment that may trigger the need to redefine industry boundaries and identify a whole new set of competitive relationships. Now, the third limitation of SWOT analysis, SWOT gives a one-shot view of a moving target. So, a key weakness of SWOT is that it is primarily a static assessment. It focuses too much of a firm's attention on one moment in time. Essentially, this is like studying a single frame of a motion picture. You may be able to identify the principal actors and learn something about the setting, but it doesn't tell you much about the plot. So, just like an example of my previous discussion, we have job satisfaction, and there was a picture there of a movie, The Inside Out. So, we have a lot of learnings, even though we are adults, but we had lots of learnings kind of while watching the movie. So, the movie was very nice, but then we don't know the hardship of the graphic artist and the animators behind the movie, right? So like how many years they've juggled just to make the movie. Okay, so just like SWOT, we only see what is there, no? Wala siya sa sulod. Okay, number four. SWOT overemphasized a single dimension of strategy. Sometimes, firms become preoccupied with a single strength or a key feature of the product or service they are offering and ignore other factors needed for competitive success. SWOT analysis has much to offer, but only as a starting point. So, by itself, it rarely helps a firm develop competitive advantages that is, it can sustain over time. So, next, we will move on to our first point, which is the value chain analysis. So, according to Investopedia, from the product's original concept to its delivery to a consumer, value chain is a sequence of sequential steps that go into making a final product. So every point of the production process where value is added is identified by the chain, including the sourcing, manufacturing, and marketing phases. So what is value? No? Value is determined by total revenue and reflects the price a company's product commands and the quantity it can sell. So it is the amount that customers are willing to pay for what a company offers them. When the value a business exceeds the entire expense incurred in producing its goods or service, it is said to be profitable. A crucial idea in assessing a company's competitive position is producing value for customers that surpasses production expenses. So we have here two categories in the value chain. So this figure represents the value chain. So here we have two different categories. We have primary activities and the support activities. So there are five generic categories in primary activities. We have the inbound logistics, operations, outbound logistics, marketing and sales, and service. While in the support activities, it has four, no? First is the procurement, technology development, human resource management, and the general administration are sometimes called the infrastructure. So here, let's move on to the um, inbound logistics. Okay. So inbound logistics is primarily associated with receiving, storing, and distributing inputs to the product. It includes material handling, warehousing, inventory control, vehicle scheduling, and returns to suppliers. So, location of distribution facilities to minimize shipping times, and warehouse layout and designs to increase efficiency of operations for incoming materials. Those are the factors to be considered in inbound logistics. So that is why in industries, no, as you can see here with our um, picture, we have the raw material supplier and then a manufacturing plant or company. So that is the process of the inbound logistics. So here, because we have factors to consider in inbound logistics, that is why in industries, architecture plays an important part. So most people may see it as drawing lang, but when spaces are not properly analyzed and located accordingly, it is going to cause sabotage, especially in the safety of employees and employers, and can cause, of course, business failure. Because if the spaces are not well arranged, um, it is very hard for the operation and somehow would affect the capacity and the ability of the business. So next, we have the operations. So creating environmentally friendly manufacturing is one way to use operations to achieve competitive advantage. Operations include all activities associated with transforming inputs into the final product form, such as machining, assembly, testing, printing, and facility operations. Okay, so next in the value chain analysis is the outbound logistics. So outbound logistics, we have factors to consider again, effective shipping processes to provide quick delivery and minimize damages. The second, shipping of goods in large lot sizes to minimize transportation cost. So outbound logistics is associated with collecting, storing, and distributing the product or service to buyers. So these activities include finished goods, warehousing, material handling, delivery, vehicle operation, order processing, and scheduling. So next with the value chain analysis is we have the marketing and sales. Marketing and sales, again, we have factors to consider, innovative approaches to promotion and advertising. The second, proper identification of customer segments and needs. These activities are associated with purchases of products and services by end users and the inducement used to get them to make purchases. So they include advertising, promotion, sales force, quoting, channel selection, channel relations, and pricing. So the next, for the value chain analysis under primary activities, we have the services. Okay? The primary activity includes all actions associated with providing service to enhance or maintain the value of the product, such as installation, repair, training, part supply, and product adjustment. So in service, the factors to consider is quick response to customer needs and emergencies, quality of service personnel, and ongoing training. So here, let us move on to the support services. First, we have the procurement. Procurement refers to the function of purchasing inputs used in the firm's value chain, not to the purchased inputs themselves. Purchased inputs include raw materials, supplies, and other consumable items, as well as assets such as machinery, laboratory equipment, office equipment, and buildings. So here we have the factors to consider. Procurement of raw material inputs to optimize quality and speed and to minimize the associated cost. Second is development of collaborative win-win relationships with suppliers. And again, we have the analysis and selection of alternative sources of inputs to minimize dependence on one supplier. Next, for the support activities, we have the technology development. Okay, every value activity embodies technology. So the array of technologies employed in most firms is very broad, ranging from technologies used to prepare documents and transport goods to those embodied in processes and equipment or the product itself. So here are the factors to consider. Number one is effective research and development activities for process and product initiatives. Second, positive collaborative relationships between research and development and other departments. And the third one is excellent professional qualifications of personnel. The next part of the support services is the human resource management. So, human resource management consists of activities involving in the recruiting. No, it involves recruiting, hiring, training, development, and compensation of all types of personnel. So it supports both individual primary and support services. So in the human resource management, we have factors to consider. Number one, effective recruiting, development, and retention mechanisms for employees. Number two, quality relations with trade unions. And number three, reward and incentive programs to motivate your employees. So the next one in the value chain analysis under support activities is the general administration. So general administration consists of a number of activities, including general management, planning, finance, accounting, and legal government affairs, quality management, and information systems. So, administration typically supports the entire value chain and not individual activities. So, for general administration, it must have the effective planning systems to attain overall goals and objects. Second, excellent relationships with diverse stakeholder groups. And the third one, effective information technology to integrate value creating activities. So we have here interrelationships among value chain activities within and across organizations. We have two levels of importance. Number one is interrelationships among activities within the firm. And the second one, relationships among activities within the firm and with other stakeholders. So, interrelationships are interactions between internal organizational factors and external factors that impact the organization, referred to as interrelationships or correlations. So, relationships inside an organization are meant to determine and explain the success or failure of a corporation. So, here we have the prosumer concept, integrating customers into the value chain. The link between the company and its most significant stakeholder, its customers, should be the main emphasis when discussing the value chain idea. For certain cutting edge businesses, collaborating with their clients to meet their specific demands is essential to success. Customers may be more satisfied if they are involved in the actual production process. Additionally, it might lead to substantial cost savings and creative ideas for the business, which could be passed on to the client in the form of affordable and superior goods and services. So, usually in my practice as an architect, um, I I am applying this, prosumer concept because my experience, especially when we build residentials, um, most of the client, uh, ilahag yun nga gusto ang masunod. Even though, for me as a designer, I don't really appreciate or dili na ko gina-value or di ko ganahan in short sa iyang design or usay mo sa kuhi, but mo may ang ganahan, happy man siya. And the most important thing sa ako is happy siya. But there are also instances nga kanang magtuman siya, na siya gusto, especially with the space planning, but as a professional, there are things that we need to follow, like the building code of the Philippines, the fire code of the Philippines. We have certain dimensions and spaces that we need to provide for the safety and the comfort of the family residing in the residential. So it's a case-to-case basis, of course, with the colors, choice of tiles, I give them the freedom. But for the spaces, the space planning, it's always my idea. But of course, um, with the approval of the client. So I have to like talk with them. This is the spaces. This is what you're going to experience when you get inside the home. So ingon ana nga process. So in the design and build um, administration, like what I am doing in my small firm, ingon ana siya more on kanang collaborating with your client. So if you can see here, no, the result, happy siya because na-meet man ang iyang gusto. No? So next is applying the value chain to service organizations. So according to the value chain's applicability to service organizations, a company's value adding process may vary based on the kind of business it conducts. So activities like procurement and legal services are essential for adding value as the discussion of support activities. So it is true that certain initiatives that would exclusively benefit one organization might be essential to another main value adding endeavor. So the application of the value chain to service organizations suggests that the value adding process may be configured differently depending on the type of business firm it is engaged in. So the figure shown provides two models of how the value chain might look in service industries. So in the retail industry, there are no manufacturing operations. So for an engineering services firm, a research and development provides inputs. No, the transformation process is the engineering itself, and innovative designs and practical solutions are the outputs. So for the engineering services, for example, like in mechanical engineering, so they are going to have a research and development program. For example, they want to solve a problem um, pertaining to like in the agricultural part. So having the problem, they are going to provide the solution using engineering itself. And then they're going to provide design solutions. And then when it is ready, of course, they're going to do the marketing and sales and provide the service, no, through their product. So here, I just made my own, um, what you call this one, a diagram that may somehow reflect the design and build by administration of an architect. So first, of course, when we graduate and then we have 2 years of apprenticeship before we are going to have our license, no, registered license. We need to market ourselves, market our um, capacities and our amuang artistic na value. So but not in a very kanang ko ano, actually by law, bawal mi sa mga architect nga mag-post og mga dagko nga billboards nga hey, we are architect nga ngani ang among design inguna ngani ang fee, so dili siya pwede. And then next, kung naa na may client, of course we have designs and solutions based of course by the law that the Philippines na dapat na to sundon with the standards. And of course, when the design is ready and approved by the client and your customer, so in the building part, you are going to partner with suppliers because sometimes clients they wanted to have a specific finishing, they wanted to have a specific lighting, a specific fixture in the bathroom or the tiling. So different types of cladding, different types of roofing. So of course, the next step will be partnering with suppliers. And then when you have that one, then you will move on to the construction and project management, which is ang pinaka lisod, pinakadugay nga mahuman. And then after that, when everything is kanang completed, of course, turnover of project. And then when after the turnover of the project, you can really say that the services and the design that you make is alive. Somehow you can see, the house is alive because naa na siya water, naa na light, and people are living in it and enjoying. So, okay. Next, uh, we will move on to our second point, okay, which is the resource-based view of the firm. So its viewpoint holds that business competitive advantages stem from their possession of strategic resources that are rare, precious, expensive to replace, and expensive to replicate. So RBV has two perspectives, namely the internal analysis of phenomena within a company and the external analysis of the industry and its competitive environment. So by combining internal and external viewpoints, the firm's RBV goes beyond the conventional SWOT analysis. It is impossible to assess a firm's resource capacity to provide competitive advantages without taking the larger competitive environment into account. It is necessary to assess a company's resources based on their rarity, value, and difficulty for rivals to replicate. So, for understanding why certain competitors are more profitable than others, RBV is a highly helpful paradigm. So, because it demonstrates how a company's core strength may help it take advantage of new product and market opportunities. So, it is particularly useful for formulating strategies for both individual enterprises and diversified firms. So we have the types of firm resources. The first one is we have the tangible, um, intangible, and organizational capability. So tangible, these are assets that are relatively easy to identify. They include the physical and financial assets that an organization uses to create value for its customers. Next, we have the intangible resources. So intangible resources are much more difficult for competitors to account for or imitate. These are typically embedded in unique routines and practices that have evolved and accumulated over time. These include human resources, innovation resources, and reputation resources. Organizational capabilities are not specific tangible or intangible assets, but rather the competencies or skills that a firm employs to transform inputs into outputs. So, in short, they refer to an organization's capacity to deploy tangible and intangible resources over time and generally in combination, and to leverage those capabilities to bring about a desired end. So next, we have the firm resources and sustainable competitive advantages. So competitive advantages cannot be sustained over time or be based solely on resources. In certain situations, a resource or expertise help a business boost sales or cut expenses. But the business only gains a short-term edge because rivals swiftly copy or replace it. So here we have the four attributes. Number one, the resource must be valuable in the sense that it exploits opportunities, or neutralizes threats in the firm's environment. So the second, it must be rare among the firm's current and potential competitors. The third one, the resource must be difficult for competitors to imitate. And the fourth one, the resource must have no strategically equivalent substitutes. The next, we have the generation and distribution of firms' profits. VRIN, or valuable, rare, inimitable, non-sustainable resources, are the source of a company's profitability. Its strong brand and talented team enable it to provide customers with exceptional value. So internal variables are reflected in the distribution of profits. So although reinvestment in the research and development or expansion may be given priority, shareholders nevertheless anticipate a return in the form of dividends. So taxes further restrict distributable profits, and debt obligations necessitate interest payments. Profitability is essentially driven by a strong internal environment, which is typified by VRIN resources. So, however, its distribution takes into account both external commitments and internal growth needs. So, here we have four factors that help explain the extent to which employees and managers will be able to obtain proportionately high level of the profits that they generate. Number one, employee bargaining power. Number two, employee replacement cost. Number three, employee exit cost. And number four, we have the manager bargaining power. So next, we'll move on to our I think this is the third already, point, which is evaluating firm performance. Uh, we have the financial ratio analysis. So financial ratio analysis determines a company's performance based on its income statement, balance sheet, and market value. The firm's performance over time, not simply at a single moment, and its comparison to industry standards and major rivals must be considered while conducting a financial ratio study. We have different types of financial ratios. Okay, the first one here, you can see it here in our figure. The first one is the short-term solvency or liquidity ratio. Second is the long-term solvency measures. The third one is the asset management or turnover. The fourth one is profitability. And the last one is the market value ratios. So next, here we have issues to be addressed and taken into account to make financial analysis more meaningful. First, we have the historical comparisons. Second, we have the comparisons with industry norms. And the third one is comparisons with key competitors. First, historical comparison. When you evaluate a firm's financial performance, it is very useful to compare its financial position over time. So this provides means of evaluating trends. So as you can see here, this is a graph made by accountants now based on previous performance. Muna nga, if there are missing on the data, it's hard. So a good accounting is really helpful. So here, the figure shows a comparison from 2004 to 2013. Okay? And the return on sales. Makita nimo ang trend niya. And then next, of course, we have issues to be addressed. Finish na ta sa historical comparison. We have the comparisons with in industry norms. So comparison with industry norms, when you are evaluating a firm's financial performance, remember also to compare it with industry norms. So a firm's current ratio or profitability may appear impressive at first glance. However, it may pale when compared with industry standards or norms. So comparing your firm with other firms in your industry assesses relative performance. So here you can see here um, the comparison between three kanang firms. We have the semiconductors, grocery stores, skilled nursing facilities, and they have here the different ratio. So next issue to be addressed after the historical and comparison with industry norms, we have the third one, comparisons with key competitors. So here, firms with similar strategies are members of a strategic group in an industry. So furthermore, competition is more intense among competitors within groups than across groups. Thus, you can gain valuable insights into a firm's financial and competitive position if you make comparisons between a firm and its most direct rivals. So here we have integrating financial analysis and stakeholder perspectives. A system for strategic planning and management called a balance scorecard. So it is used to match a company's operations with its goals and objectives. It converts the strategic objectives into operational goals that can be tracked and enhanced. So four aspects are usually included in the balance scorecard: internal process, learning, learning and growth, customers, and finances. Business can adopt a more sustainable and well-rounded approach to performance management by concentrating on these four crucial areas. Traditional financial management like sales, profitability, and shareholder value are measured from a financial standpoint. So, customer acquisition, retention, and satisfaction are the main goals of the customer perspective. The internal process viewpoint assess operational efficacy and efficiency, including cost savings, cycle time, and product quality. So here, for customers' perspective, we ask the question, how do customers see us? So in internal business perspective, we also ask the question, what must we excel at? For innovation and learning perspective, we ask the question, can we continue to improve and create value? And the last one, the financial perspective, we can ask the question, how do we look to shareholders? Okay, so these are the questions pertaining to the following. So thank you very much for listening and being with me for half an hour, I guess. So thank you so much, and